In the autumn of 1888, fear moved through the narrow streets of Whitechapel like the fog itself. London was the capital of the British Empire, rich, crowded, and powerful. But in the East End, thousands lived in desperate poverty. Lodging houses were packed. Work was irregular. Gas lamps left long stretches of darkness. And in that darkness, an unknown killer became a legend. The name was Jack the Ripper. The wider police file became known as the Whitechapel murders. It covered 11 violent deaths between 1888 and 1891. But historians most often focus on 5 victims, known as the canonical 5, because their murders share the strongest pattern and occurred in a tight period of just 10 weeks. Their names must be remembered first: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. They were not just names in a case file. They were women surviving in one of London's hardest districts, where poverty made ordinary life dangerous. The first canonical murder was Mary Ann Nichols, found in Bucks Row on August 31, 1888. 1 week later, on September 8, Annie Chapman was found in the backyard of 29, Hanbury Street. The attacks were brutal, quick, and shocking even to a city used to hardship. Then came the night that made Whitechapel panic. In the early hours of September 30th, Elizabeth Stride was found in Dutfield's yard, off Berners Street. Less than an hour later, Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square. Because 2 women were killed in one night, the press called it the double event. Some investigators believed Stride's killer may have been interrupted before moving on. But that remains a theory, not a proven fact. On November 9th, Mary Jane Kelly was found in her room at 13 Miller's Court, off Dorset Street. Unlike the others, she was killed indoors. Her murder was the most severe, and after it, the series that defined Jack the Ripper appeared to stop. The investigation was enormous for its time. Metropolitan police officers searched lodging houses, interviewed witnesses, and followed hundreds of tips. Catherine Eddowes was killed inside the City of London, so the city police also investigated. But Victorian detectives had no DNA testing, no modern fingerprint database, and very limited forensic tools. Witnesses gave uncertain descriptions. Streets were dark. People used false names. And sensational newspapers turned fear into daily headlines. The killer's most famous name may have come from a letter. On September 25, 1888, a message sent to the Central News Agency was signed, "Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." It became known as the Dear Boss letter. Many police officials and later researchers suspected that this and many other letters were hoaxes. But once the name was printed, it stuck forever. Rumors spread faster than evidence. Some blamed a doctor. Others blamed a butcher, a sailor, or a foreigner. Over time, more than 100 suspects would be named, including Aaron Kosminski, Montague John Drute, and Michael Ostrog. But no suspect has ever been proven to be Jack the Ripper. That is the truth at the center of the myth. The killer was never identified, never arrested, and never convicted. The Whitechapel murders changed crime history. They showed the growing power of mass media. They exposed the poverty of London's East End. They pushed police work into the public spotlight. And they created the image of the anonymous serial killer hiding inside a modern city. But behind the legend were real victims. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. Their lives were harder than the headlines ever admitted, and their deaths should not be reduced to a monster's nickname. More than a century later, the fog has lifted from Whitechapel's streets. The buildings have changed. The newspapers have yellowed. But the question remains: who was Jack the Ripper? For now, the answer is still buried in the shadows. This was Crime Unmasked. Subscribe for more true crime stories where secrets are finally exposed.